Alrighty, welcome back everyone. This is Making Money Squared. This is episode number 3. As always, Ben Twist from Convert Leads here, my co-host Krystian.
Thank you very much, Ben, and welcome to the third episode of Making Money Squared. Here's Krystian from Cognitech Solutions, and we have a special guest today, Jordan.
How are you? Jordan here from Seamless AI. So another Australian AI automator. So glad to be on here today.
Perfect. So we thought, Krystian, we want to dive deep into the sales process and really dive into how AI can help businesses A, save time, and B, sell more or make more money. The reason why we called the podcast the name that it is. And today, why we brought Jordan on is simply because we're going to talk specifically about the beginning of the sales process, converting leads into appointments. Okay? I think the best place to start really is where the leads come from, because we've got inbound, we've got outbound, we've got ads, we've got emails. You know, why don't we start there, Krystian?
Right. So, where do leads come from? Of course, that's a pretty vague question, right? And really depends on the business. You can, of course, come from ads, right? So you can get it from inbound and outbound. Inbound, right, is mostly through content and advertisements. As in, well, for example, posting videos on YouTube, showcasing, or LinkedIn, showcasing what you can do for clients and educating them. Or putting advertisements, showcasing what you can do for clients, right? Second is outbound. So directly finding someone who could be interested in your offer and pitching them the idea. Now, so where does AI lie in this, right? In the first step of the lead generation process. Where does AI lie in this? I would say it mostly lies in the outbound channel, not really the inbound. In a sense, in the outbound, there's way more potential for automation. Why is that? Because the outbound mostly nowadays is going through text or calls. Both of them you can automate using AI. Now, and in terms of inbound, most of it is done through videos and images. Images AI can do, but videos it cannot.
Exactly right. However, the benefit to inbound is that once they've opted in, or they've replied to a message, or they've responded to an email, or they've clicked a link, at that point is where AI can jump in, be automated, and convert new leads into new opportunities in whatever form it is, whatever form the sales opportunity is for that business, you know? And you made a good point, Krystian. Outbound being automated. Why don't we start there? Because that's something that you offer to clients. How can businesses automate outbound, and what can they automate with AI so they can get a better result?
Right. So, how can a business automate outbound? It's pretty simple, really. Depends on the manner of automating outbound. Let's say what I set up for my clients is a email prospecting system, fully automatic. What that means is we buy a list of the people who we want to contact directly. Then, from all the info we gather about those people, like where we found them, or all the info that is available on a list of leads, then we can personalize a outreach email fully using AI. So it's as if a person actually went, for example, through a LinkedIn profile with all the information in there, actually typed in a very specific email to that person and sent it. But in that case, if a person does it, it takes maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5. If an AI does it, it takes 1 second. So and you can personalize 100 at a time. So that's where really AI personalization comes in.
Yeah, I was going to say, to add on what Christian said there, you got to think it's an automation system that works around the clock, delves deep into every single lead, finds out their work history, full name, last name, finds out their, like, everything from their what they do in their work. So the in regards to outbound, it can be so customizable compared to your normal, I would love to connect, So just to add to what Christian was saying there.
And you mentioned, Jordan, you do this for your icebreakers, which I thought was super interesting. If you're going to craft an outbound message, most of it is very simply, personalization or where you found them, personalization, and then offer and call to action, right? To put it vaguely. Talk to me why it's beneficial to get AI to make those icebreakers for your outreach messaging.
100%. So I like to look at it in percentages, right? So if you're looking at your emails on a day-to-day basis, if there's an email you don't see, what are the chances of you opening that email and actually replying to it? So if you can use the power of AI to craft a specific icebreaker for someone in regards to their history. So for example, you're working with the oil and gas niche. Love what you've done. Love what you've done here at such and such company. The work you've done to improve the lives of many in your area, is something that relates to me on a deeper level. So not only are you building rapport with that icebreaker, but you're making it more human, rather than you can really easily identify the ones who don't put time into their outreach and the ones who do. So your main call to action would be getting onto a live call like we are today, just to put a face to the outreach. So that's why that's why it is so important. And to touch on what you guys are saying before on where you are finding those leads, you would have to tailor your approach depending on where you're finding them from. Say, for example, LinkedIn, more of a professional manner. You would use anywhere between 2 to 3 subjects for that outbound outreach. Whereas Twitter, for example, or X, it'd be more casual, a lot shorter. You got to think the attention span on social media compared to someone reading their email, 2 very different things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's why you can get much more granular with outbound, because you're choosing who to reach out to, but you can take it a step further by personalizing it at scale to your whole lead list, which is really where the making money squared comes in handy, right?
And what I would want to add on to that, right? Onto the personalization part, is I guess most business owners, right, which haven't really dealt with AI, their question would be, well, how exactly does it sound more human or more personalized if it's AI doing it? Of course, to a certain point, right, for it to have like a very good connection with like the prospect, you need a human to write it, right?
You're right, Christian, and I can answer that very easily. It's all down to your prompting. Prompting is probably the biggest individualizer when it comes to how good you are as an AI automator. So if you're spending 5 minutes on, a quick, 2-paragraph prompt, well, your outcome from that prompt would be exactly what of the work you put into it. So it all comes down to your prompting.
And just to drop in something, a little invitation, you guys should check out episode number 1 if you haven't, because we go through the importance of prompting and how the outcome is completely dependent on the input. How you prompt, train, instruct any artificial intelligence software that you use.
Exactly right. Treat it like you got to think, you got to take it seriously. It's your business. How would you train an employee? How you train that employee is how you train your bot, in essence. So the more time and effort and the harder you push it, the greater the outcome will be. So, yeah.
Super good point. I didn't even, when you put it that way, people overlook it. They go, "Oh, it's a robot. Oh, I can do it. All right, it'll figure it out." Well, let me ask you, if you just spoke to a new employee and said, "Oh, they'll figure it out. I'll give them a few crumbs and they'll figure it out."
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah.
Bad result every single time, unless they're on the ball, right? Which is a very, very.
And now imagine you said to a human, right, I'll pay you $0 an hour. Here's the workload I want. Imagine how that human would respond.
Yeah. Plus, right, in that perspective, well, AI, how much time do you spend training an employee compared to training an AI? Knowing that an employee is a human, right? And we tend to make mistakes, forget things, right? And generally are not, maybe we have a personal grudge against the person, or something is happening, or my dog just died this morning. Something happened. Like, things like that happen, right? And with AI, you don't have to deal with it. So you'll save loads and loads of time putting time into your prompt instead of training an employee.
And to piggyback on that idea, Christian, let's just assume it takes the same amount of time in hours and effort to train an AI and a real employee. Once the artificial intelligence is to an exceptional level and can perform tasks exceptionally well, all you got to do is turn up the dial for the volume and it can handle it, right? And this leads into converting those leads into appointments. Let me ask you both. If you were to take a salesperson who's taking inbound leads and converting them into appointments, they're not going to be able to do the same amount of work in the same time and at the same volume.
Yeah, great point. Because you got to think too, they're working 8 hours a day. Your AI is working 24 hours a day. No breaks, no lunch breaks, no drink breaks. It's just working. So volume is huge if you want to make it in any outreach game. So
I would say, right, to just, piggyback on what you said, that AI is working 24 hours a day. I would say even more. Why? Because, right, let's say it's a chatbot installed on a WhatsApp number. And when it's typing a message, right, when it's thinking about what it's going to say, right, it's that working. Now, a human, right, working 8 hours a day is responding one by one to messages 8 hours a day. Now, AI can basically divide itself up to 100 messages at the same time. Let's say it takes it 1 minute, which is just for the sake of argument, right? Or 1 second to reply to a message, right? And it's doing 60 messages at the same time. In 1 second, it has done 60 seconds of work. So it can 50 times 24 hours within 24 hours.
I was just doing some numbers on that, and super great point. Let's just assume a work day is 8 hours, okay? And let's assume that an employee can work at 100% for 8 hours. That's 100% work, right? And let's just assume that. Transfer it to AI, 8 times 4, 24 hours. So that's 400% work, right? But then we go back to the beginning of the equation. Employees don't work 100% at 8 hours a day. So let's halve it. Let's say they work 100% for 4 hours of the day, which means artificial intelligence is not only working 4 times, but it's 4 times 2, you know? So it's 800% more work being done in the same time frame.
And numbers don't lie, Ben, because we were having this talk the other day in regards to response rates. I like to call it the golden rule, but you touched on it before. So if your AI is responding to these people within the first minute, it increases their rate of closing that time by 400%. So it's so funny how you mentioned 400% in workload. Not only does that equate to workload, but it also responds to an actual response too. So numbers don't lie. So it's crazy how similar things are.
That's crazy because, well, it just comes back to the name of the podcast. For 100% more work, 400% time saved, and 400% more deals, so 400% more sales. Making money squared.
Making money squared. I think, just to piggyback on your point, Jordan, just to bring it back to the broad audience, I think whatever business you're in, if you have inquiries, regardless if it's outbound or inbound, usually that first touch point is slow. What I mean by slow, as in delayed, and tweaking something simple as the time for that first touch point can increase your conversions by 400%. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Even if you just trained your staff on that, that would be a huge ROI. But what if you can replace that staff member with an artificial intelligence who can speak to 200 inbound leads a day rather than 100, and they can message them within the first 2 minutes and guarantee that nothing gets slipped through the cracks, and guarantee that that conversion of 400% is in that window every single time. It's the consistency, exactly. It's the control.
And not only does it respond, but it qualifies the leads. Asks the leads questions back if you prompt it correctly. It collects their details, books appointments. So the opportunity is endless, really.
Right. Then the question then becomes, right? We covered AI and lead generation as in the first step of the sales funnel. Now let's go to the second step, lead qualification. What are your guys' opinions on lead qualification using AI? How is it better than humans, and how have you guys implemented it in real business?
I'll start with that one. So for me, lead qualification is probably the most important step in regards to whether or not this lead is good for you. Because unlike most sales approaches, right, it's not so much, okay, how much outreach can I do? How many businesses can I get in? Doesn't matter the number. I just want as many as possible. Whereas with AI, it has to be a specific solution that they need within their business. So for example, if it's a realtor, it'll be a more of a emotionally driven call, because they're more focused on outcomes, how quickly they can achieve things. Whereas with a restaurant, that'll be more numbers focused. You got to think with restaurants, they get busier during holiday periods, holiday times. So regardless on whether their reception is working or not, you have to prompt their pain point in a way to where it's like, okay, even if you have the best receptionist working at your restaurant, there's no way that your restaurant will be able to book in calls, manage everything with no wait time, in the speed that AI can do it. So lead qualification is huge, because the business actually has to be experiencing those pain points for you to qualify them in the first place.
Absolutely. And to jump on just to add to that, it's also the consistency and the control, right? It's a controlled variable. What do I mean by that? If you know that every single inquiry is going to be contacted within 2 minutes, and every single inquiry, no matter what time of day, no matter what ad you run, no matter what email they reply to, no matter what phone they call, you know that they're going to be qualified the same way, and they're going to be directed to the same outcome every single time. That's huge. In any business, restaurant to landscaper, especially ones that have a phone, like they need inbound phone inquiries. They rely on that. Share a bit more about the AI receptionist, the very, very cool stuff you've been working on, Jordan, for those types of businesses, because this is huge.
100%. So there's many different softwares out there. It really depends on what way you want to go about it, how big the restaurant is, whether they're a small business or a bigger business. We can touch on this in later podcasts in regards to linking it with their payment systems. Like Square is a huge one for businesses as well, but that's a whole nother animal right there. But as simple as having the caller validate the person with their name, how many people are coming to the reservation, how many people are coming to the table, what time it needs to be for. But not only does the AI need to qualify the lead in that way, it also has to check, okay, do we actually have spaces for them to bring on more people? Because like you said, if you're qualifying hundreds and hundreds, or so just say 40% more calls than an average person, the best way to put it, you could be overbooking. So you also have to have systems in place to not be a yes bot and just say, you know what, we've got no space, let's bring in a family of 10, So having those systems and the prompts in place to where it can fetch data from a database, using the proper API keys with the business. So for what I found, what's worked best for me is once you've built that connection with the business owner, getting them to qualify that API key on their end, so that way you can just manage it. So that way that you've built that trust in them as well. So your AI needs to be versatile. It needs to pull from a valid database that's updated by the minute, depending on how busy the restaurant is. And also whether or not they do stuff like Uber Eats. You got to think deliveries as well. So there's a whole nother area of that as well.
100%. And I'll share an example for today. I called an aircon, a HVAC company, heat pump, an aircon company. I called them twice from a Google ad, which had their number on it, and they didn't pick up the phone. That's opportunity gone. I would have, if I was actually looking to get an aircon installed, which if I was searching on it, I'd be very close to that point in that buying stage, I would have just scrolled to the next one and called the next person.
Exactly.
How important is that?
One thing I want to touch on, right, since we're on the subject of AI receptionists, as I would say, most business owners, right, are not really experienced in AI. And the most prevalent, I would say, objection to installing an AI receptionist is, of course, the fact that it's, when you call someone, when you call a company, right, you want it to be a human, in the sense of, you want the person who picks up the phone to sound human, to have a human connection with the person on the phone. So can AI truly replace that?
The amount of people that have said to me, well, I don't want a robot being my receptionist. Little do they know how human-like you can make these reception voice callers. Like, even me, when I first learned about this, I couldn't even decipher the difference. You can adjust everything from their response time to if the customer's speaking, for the AI to actually stop and listen, or for the AI to keep talking. So you'll be surprised how human-like you can make these receptionists and these voice callers. So
Yeah, super great point. When I think of inbound phone calls to businesses, I think it can be very scripted, the conversation. Like, think of any time you've called a restaurant. Hey, how you going? Oh, booking for 2? Let me just check for you. Yep, we've got available. What time would you like to come in? 7 o'clock. Can I grab your name, please? John Smith. No worries, John Smith. I'll see you and your wife at 7 o'clock. That's pretty scripted, and that's a really great start to build an artificial intelligence system off to replicate.
And either way, right, what I would like to touch on is, as you just said, right, a conversation of a receptionist mostly is scripted. And that way, it kind of sounds robotic, Even when you go to a grocery store, right, you go to the checkout counter, they always say the same thing, always the same greeting, always the same question. It always sounds like a robot. One thing that is not then good, right, is, well, for the person that is actually at the counter taking orders, they don't want to be a robot. They want to be a human. They want to do actually meaningful things. Second is because it's the same thing scripted, gives a very direct path to automation. As in, you could just do this with an automated voice, with custom actions, right? And if anything really goes down, or there is a question that the AI can answer, it can divert to another phone line, and you're good to go.
Let me ask you guys. This is a question from me. I'm a very big communication guy. If I call a business and they sound bland, they don't sound like they're having a good day, they sort of just have to show up to get the paycheck, whatever it is, can you train an AI voice system to have that tonality, to have that ability to make it sound like they're having the best day of your life? Because that affects the customer conversation completely. You know, people want to be around people that make them feel good.
Yeah, 100%. So I find what works for me is a two-step AI. So the first one being I always prompt it being energetic and on a happy tone, for example, right? But once you get familiar with responses and outcomes, call times and stuff like that, you can also have the AI actually match the energy of the other person throughout the call as well. So say, for example, right, customer, their dog just died, like you mentioned before, right? Dog died, worst thing in the world. If you have a happy AI caller who's happy throughout the whole phone call, and if you're giving off the energy and you actually mention the fact that, because sometimes people like to overshare. You're talking about older people, they tend to share things without even prompting, right? Which is one of the issues I found in the prompting sense is, okay, sometimes people can just overshare. So having the AI actually validate their feelings has been, I can't do that for myself, let alone get an AI to do that. So if for me to prompt an AI to actually validate, they'll be like, okay, here, I understand you. That's a sad thing to go through. And for the AI actually to adjust their tone throughout the call has been a huge improvement on,
What I would also like to say, right, is in a certain sense, the AI will do a better job at having a good, happy tone than a human would. Serving 24/7 on a phone line.
Not influenced by outside forces, not influenced by emotion, doesn't matter if their dog died this morning, doesn't matter if they're losing their house this afternoon, same.
it doesn't matter that they're not getting paid. Yeah.
Exactly. Doesn't matter. And even like if you were to replace it, right, for 24 hours support on the phone line with 3 people on an 8-hour shift, those people, maybe for the 2 hours they would have the energy of being high energy, then 4 hours of medium energy, 2 hours of low energy, and can only take one call at a time. AI can take as many calls at a time as it can, plus has the exact same voice, exact same tone, which can configure it to be happy every single time.
Exactly. And like you touched on before, when you tried calling that aircon company, you got to think these people calling in are hungry. They're impatient. If there's no bookings, they'll just call the next one. There's plenty of restaurants out there. So these business owners do appreciate the fact that everyone can be answered. You would not believe it, like, especially when you're talking about, obviously we can delve into a future podcast, but when you actually deliver your packages, a lot of them have no questions in regards to the price of things because their customers are happy, therefore better business for them. So much is word of mouth, especially in more, say, like local towns that aren't as big. Word of mouth is huge. So if their customers are happy, the next door neighbors and the Joneses and their grandsons know about it too. So
A really interesting point just came to mind. How important do you guys think removing friction from a sale is? Because you just mentioned a key point. You call a business on a Google ad, you have searched up that product or service. You are clearly somewhere close to the buying stage. If they don't answer the phone, that's massive friction in that sales process, which is going to cost them the sale. How important is that? Like having the frictionless sale?
Well, of course, it is really important, right? As you just mentioned, how can you buy something if you literally cannot buy it right now? Like how? Okay, like nobody really has the patience. Depending on what kind of thing it is. Maybe you have cancer and you need cancer treatment, and you will do anything to get the cancer treatment. But most sales are not like that. Most sales is, I kind of want it. If there's any friction, there will be, because you don't need it like that. You would say to yourself, okay, then let me do something else. And you just forget about it.
Yeah, same goes obviously to answer that question, any business model you look at, most human companies try and decipher the difference between a customer and them just being a number, whether it's, social media platforms to, finance companies to banks, that they prompt in their workers through their scripting, right, with how they teach their employees, make them sound more human. So, when they do call in, having a follow-up system to make sure they get heard. Simple things, but it's just human nature things, being heard, understanding them, answering their question. It solves so many bottlenecks that would come of having nothing there in place. So,
Do you guys think it's critical for these service-based businesses to have an AI phone system, inbound system, etc.?
Especially for local businesses, I would say. Because for, let's say, an e-commerce store, you go on the website, you buy on the website. It's pretty straightforward. You don't need to call anybody, right? But in terms of, let's say I've got a pool and I need someone to come clean the pool. First thing I do is go on Google Maps, go see go on Google, go see if there's any pool cleaners in my city, call them, ask if they're available, let's say this week at this location to do this. And for your specific pool, for everything needed. So that's really, maybe, let's say, there is some local businesses, let's say a barber shop, where you can just make it a website, and on the website you can click a couple buttons and you schedule a meeting. But either way, if you've got any questions about it, you call them, right?
The workload less for the business too, because if your AI is obviously responding to these people, depending on, going back to what we said, how you've prompted it, it answers frequently asked questions. It gets their details. It's done 80% of the work for you. You just got to say, well, yep, let's do this time. Let's lock it in. Like your workload as a business owner and as someone who sells a service-based business is cut down heaps. So not only are you saving the business owner time, everything it comes across as a win-win, because there's really no negatives to it.
Absolutely. And this carries on to the next, which I want to touch on, is that lead qualification. It's very important, but it's also something that can be easily automated. What do I mean by that? If you're a restaurant, what do you need for a qualified lead? Well, you need the time that they want to come in, and you need the number of people that they want to see. And then you need some contact details, name, phone, or an email. We're at the point now where artificial intelligence can get that over voice or over text-based, right? And that saves, but before AI, I always say this, that simple qualification step has been obliterated because of the introduction of artificial intelligence. Every single business can have some sort of system to contact the lead or the inquiry or answer the phone at the right time, every time, can ask them follow a very simple process to ask a few questions to get the information before leading them to the next step.
Exactly.
And that's where they'll see huge value, because it's a huge amount of time that they're saving now, that they no longer have to pay staff for, that they no longer have to do themselves, that they no longer have to be waiting to pick up the phone, right?
Exactly. And it's a numbers-based game, isn't it? For the business owner, how they would look at it is like exactly what you just said there. Staffing fees, what they're paying their staff, their hourly rates. If you compare, say, one staff member's hourly rate over a space of a week and what they can actually respond to compared to your maintenance fees that you charge for having their system, whether you charge on, call time or whatever you want to charge them at, that maintenance fee, I guarantee, will be significantly less than paying a real person to do less of the workload.
And the other benefit here is if you take option A, staff, the more volume you have, the more expenses and people you need, the more human capital, which means the more time you need to train them, the more time you need to allocate to them, the more resources you need to invest in keeping them around. But on the other hand, with AI, the more you turn up the volume, it doesn't change a thing. You just get more results for less.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with overtime. You don't have to deal with giving them enough hours per week. You don't have to worry about if their dog died. AI will be there, my friend. So
100%. All right. That being said, we've covered lead generation, lead qualification. Now, let's go on to lead conversion. How exactly do you take a lead that is qualified, that has shown interest, and you know that it fits the criteria of a really good customer? How do you get that to getting on a sales call or directly buying?
yeah, so from that qualification standpoint, a lot of the time, depending on the business model, a lot of it comes down to the price. So, for example, right, going back to what you said before with the chiropractor, a lot of the times they have different consultations. All these consultations have different rates, different prices. Depends what you're paying for. There's so many questions involved, which is as part of that lead qualification, right? So, for example, if you've done the first two steps right, that price that the AI then prompts them, or the price that the human representative prompts them, will be specific for them. Because obviously, if a client calls in wanting an initial consultation, and you've given them, a standard consultation fee, obviously that will hurt your conversion rate no matter how good you are. So having the right info there from those first two steps makes that conversion so much easier, because the price nearly isn't even a worry for them, because they're getting the exact treatment that they need.
Yeah, I want to add to that. This is something that I learnt years ago. You want to sell like a doctor. You want to understand the problem, and then you want to lead them and recommend a solution. What does that look like? You've listened to what they want. I need an aircon, and I'm living in X location, and I have this problem. Whatever, right? Make up scenario. Then, as the expert, the trusted advisor, you can say, right, my suggestion is we schedule in 15 minutes where you can speak to one of our experts who can then assist you with all of the information you require to make a decision. That's a seamless transition into an appointment or a sales opportunity. And because you understand what the prospect wants, you can then direct them as the expert to the next step. You're controlling the sale. You're leading them through, because you do not want to give it to them. You don't want to make them make the decision. What would you like to do? Oh, I don't know. What packages do you have? Can you come to my house? You don't want that. You want it seamless, and you want to control it. And AI can help you do that.
100%. Plus, of course, like we've talked about the lead qualification process being very systematic, as in you just say this, say this, say this, say this, say this, and we'll do it. But what you can also do, right, is to tell it on specific questions, ask follow-up questions to understand deeper the problems. You can really personalize it so every single time it finds the exact issue they're having, their exact problem, and can give a correct solution which you're selling.
100%. Yes, it all comes down to them actually getting a result of what they're after. Because you got to think, everyone that calls in, everyone that goes online to these chatbots, they have a very, very specific problem that they want solved. It's not a meta point. They don't want to learn about what the business is about, when they were founded. They've got a very specific problem. My left knee hurts. What's the best way of me getting this? It's so specific. So you have to have the systems in place to bring that specificity into something that business offers, right? So, which obviously falls back to your prompting, your qualification.
It's the frictionless sale. It's the seamlessness, but it's also variety. You know, not every person is going to call your chiropractor and say they have knee pain on their left knee. So what do we need the artificial intelligence to do? Well, we need it to understand the problem first, which is where, again, to add to your point, Krystian, you can train it to ask follow-up questions to get better answers. This is a sales tip. Ask great questions, get great answers. You want to get to the root of the problem. You don't want it to be surface level, because you could be prescribing them the wrong solution. Again, it's the metaphor. Sell like a doctor. If you listen, or the AI listens and understands and asks further questions, it can then, presuming it has the right knowledge base, prompting, training, etc., it can then recommend the best solution where that prospect goes, you're right. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yes, I can come see you at 3 p.m. on Tuesday and see doctor. And it's just seamless.
Exactly. And you got to think too, once you provide that one service to them, whether it's a voice call or receptionist, whether it's a chat bot for customer service, whether it's a appointment schedule, whatever it is, once you've given that business a solution, you're now their go-to guy. Me and Ben touched on this the other day. You're now the go-to AI guy for any problems that they have. And I guarantee that once you've given them one solution, they will not stop messaging you about how they can work in other areas, how they can cut down other areas, how they can implement this everywhere. Because once you've unlocked that in their brain, they won't stop messaging you. I guarantee that.
100%. All right. So, thus far, we've covered lead generation, qualification, conversion. Now, let's move on to lead nurturing. So, for every single lead that kind of falls through the cracks, how do you nurture them to get back into the sales system back again, to get them to convert? How do you go about?
Before we answer how do we nurture them, we need to understand why. And the easiest way to put it is 100 people inquire about your thing, not 100 of them will buy. That's just the reality of life. Only a small percentage is ready to buy right now. Usually, on average, it's about 3%. They're problem aware, they're looking for a solution, and they have the money. They want to do it right now. Then you go back a stage where it's about 17%, and they're aware of a problem. They know they need a solution, but maybe they need more information. Maybe they're searching for more information to make the right decision. They may not convert on the first go. And then what about the remainder? What about the remaining, 80-something%? They could be a mixture of they don't even know they have a problem yet. Maybe they were just scrolling through an ad and they just saw something come up. Maybe there's 1,000 different reasons, but it's important because you can't write them off. I mean, this is why what I do, something that I offer is so critical and valuable, database reactivation. Because a lead that doesn't buy off you today doesn't mean they're not going to buy off you a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. So what do you have in place to keep your business top of mind and continue to be perceived as the person that can solve their problem? That is nurturing.
And you don't know the lead situation sometimes. Like that person could be having 8 different applications up on his phone. He could be at work. He sees your ad. He's interested in your ad, and then he's back to work. So it might not even be what you're selling is wrong. He was just time poor. He was multitasking. He had other stuff on his mind. So you got to think, yeah, like you said, out of all those, hundreds of leads, some of them might actually like the product, like what that business is selling, but for whatever reason, just get sidetracked, get distracted. So they're not disqualified, which is so important.
Well, let's use an example. Someone wants to buy a house. Most of the time, people start looking before they can afford a house, right? Is the real estate agent going to write that lead off as dead after that first initial phone call? They've disqualified them. You don't have the money. No, of course not. They're going to have them in a nurture system to make the prospect to make the prospect see that this agent is the person that they need to go see when they're ready, and that this person is the expert in the area that they're looking, right? And this goes back to something that you do, Krystian. Automated email systems. Email is critical for providing value and nurturing prospects. And most of the time it's either done A, someone in the business, or B, an external copywriter. Why is it so important to have, first of all, Krystian? And secondly, what's the benefit of using AI to fulfill that?
100%. All right, thank you for the question, Ben. So, why is email marketing specifically really good at nurturing leads, right? So we've already covered that a lead, right, on the first touch point may not convert. In fact, on average, a lead converts only after 8 touch points with your company or with your product, which means that they're not convinced either by the quality of your product, they need more information, or right now is just not the right time. My dog died this morning, I need to bury him somehow, right? So, that being said, email is really good at reminding the people, right, who were interested before that you still exist. Because everybody, of course, especially nowadays, has a short attention span and short memory. Everything happens so quickly. So you need to give your leads reminders that you exist, that this is your offer, and that's how you can help them. Now, that lead is being reminded again and again through email, and every single person on earth has an email address. We can confidently say that. So, everybody has an email address, and everybody checks their email because it's very important for work. Everybody is using email to communicate, right? So, you need to check your emails. Everybody has an email, and leads need to be recontacted. So, to remember that you exist, that your offer is actually pretty good, so you can buy them. So, and how does AI fit into that? Simply put, if you were to hire a copywriter to write those emails out, right, and send them out to those leads who may potentially be interested, well, it takes some time first to write the email. His dog may also have died this morning, so that may all over the place. So, maybe also an issue, right? There may be something in his life not going right. He may be sick, whatever. Plus, you actually it takes him, let's say, 2-3 hours to write the email. He sends them over to you for approval, but you say, I prefer this word or this specific sentence to be that way. I prefer it this way. I prefer the subject line this way. Whatever. You may give him some feedback. He goes back to the drawing board, starts over again. With AI, right, what is really great about it is because it can generate ideas and emails in a space of a second or milliseconds, you've pretty much got unlimited emails. So there is no more coming up with ideas. There is no more spending time writing emails. You just click one button, get 100 emails, choose one you like, send it.
It's a battle on multiple fronts. If you get your email outreach system sorted with AI, you've also got other platforms, the social media platforms. I mean, Twitter alone, you can send up to 1,000 DMs a day without getting flagged. Instagram, Meta platforms, a little bit stricter, but if you're diversifying your outreach on all different fronts, not only will that help your response rate, but it's just volume. It's just sending out more with the quality not being affected. Like Ben was touching on before, you can turn up the intensity without the quality being hurt, without the actual copy being hurt. So it's a great way of diversifying once you've mastered the email, because I'd say the email is the most important I've found when it comes to outreach. And then once you get really good at that, then diversify, then look at your social media platform.
100%.
I want to touch on that 8 touch points to convert. people, business owners, C-level executives, leaders in business. That 8 touch points could take 8 days. It could also take 8 months, depending on what you're selling, right? It could take that long. This is why it's so important to have a system to nurture those leads. Let's just take an example. A lead opts into a Facebook ad about a landscaper, and the landscaping business calls them, they get some information, they qualify them, and then they send them an SMS with some information. And they leave it at that. The person gets distracted, the landscaper doesn't call the lead again, and it's just left. They could come back a week later and remember, those hedges are looking a bit thick. I need to get those sorted. I'm going to go onto Google again and find somebody else. Boom. Okay, I've called them. Now I'm closer to the buying stage. Now I'm going to book someone in to come do the job. That first landscaper lost the business. Let's look at scenario number 2. The same landscaper, after sending that first message, sent that prospect 2 emails introducing the business and sharing what areas that they're the experts in, and some other client testimonials, photos of fantastic looking lawns, etc. By the time those 8 days passed, when the prospect goes, oh, I need to get those hedges done, what's aligned to that idea? It's the business that they spoke to the first time, because they've kept themselves top of mind. They've kept themselves as the expert to solve that problem. And that's lost in lots of businesses, but regardless of AI, but I think every business needs to have this system automated with AI, because things can get busy, customer inquiries, maybe it's raining today and your boys can't go out and mow the lawn, whatever the reason, you forget the email, and they just sort of lose that touch point. Because I would argue touch point number 3 is as important as touch point number 8, because you're not going to convert at 8 unless you have number 3.
And those 8 touch points are so huge, because you think of how short people's attention spans are. And I prompt the viewer to even think about this in their day-to-day life, right? When they drive to work, when they drive home to work, in that whole day, I want you to try and name at least one sign that you saw on the way to work and on the way home. We're so distracted with all the advertising, all the marketing out there. Having those multiple touch points is huge, because they see so much stuff on a regular basis.
Plus, what I want to add, right? And that even explains marketing tactics, such as, let's say, on a football match, right? On the corners of the field, often you see just logos of companies just advertising.
Round and round and round.
Because it reminds the people watching who they are and that they exist. They're not there just saying exactly for new people to discover it, saying exactly, this is my service, this is why I will help you. No, it's just the logo. Just to remind those who already know of it that they exist again. So for example, you're watching a football match and you see a McDonald's logo and you say, yeah, actually I would like some McDonald's right now, and you order some on Uber Eats. That's exactly how it works.
And if you notice at football matches, during the breaks, they'll turn the loudspeaker on for the advertising. And it might be the same gambling company as those signs on the field. So now you see the logo and you listen to the advertising. That across a 90-minute football match, 60-minute football match, you're getting like 12 touch points in. You know, let's say it's McDonald's. You finish that match. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm hungry. Let's go to McDonald's.
Yep, the universe told me to eat McDonald's, I just feel like it,
Your 5-year-old son is nagging you to get some McDonald's. I wonder where he got that idea from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Jordan, on nurturing leads and how AI can automate, save time, get a better result?
100%. So yeah, when it comes to nurturing, same goes for retention as well. So if you have those 8 touch points that you've said, previously, if you also flip the script and also have those touch points with your, businesses that you're working with, because obviously 99% of the time it's always B2B when it comes to AI automation. So even just checking in once a week, hey, look, here's what I've fixed this week. Here's what I've reprompted. Here's what I've maintained. Having those touch points every week, not only for the customer, but for your business that you're working with is so huge, because one, shows that you care. So you're actually putting in the time and the effort every week to actually maintain good rapport, good service with them, because you are a service, end of the day. You are an automation service. I even find the word an AI automation service is quite flashy. It's more headliney, but you are a business to business service. So, having that touch point with them once a week, whether it be an email, a list of what you've done, is a lot better than, hey, every fix you do, send them a text at 11 p.m. Look, I've been working on this for 3 hours. It's finished. Don't worry, So, having that with your businesses is huge.
What about B2C? You made a really good point. Retention after the sale. Because I would argue most B2C businesses don't really have a system or a strategy to keep those touch points going after the sale. It's usually they got them to the point, they got them over the finish line, they take the credit card, they deliver a great service, and that's it. How important is having those touch points after the sale, and what does that lead to?
What I would like to touch on, right, is the touch points themselves and why AI is super critical with it. And automation in general is super critical in them. Is because, right, to assure the touch points are met. Automation, right, streamlines the process very well. In the terms of every single, let's say, 2 days, you can schedule an email, you can schedule a message, you can schedule any other, ad, billboard, whatever system you've got in place to make sure your customers, that your lead list, is contacted again to make another touch point. If you were to do it manually, of course, from day to day you can forget, things get busy. With AI, right, one, you don't need to spend time writing it. Second, you can make it so with automations that it's sent out without you even lifting a finger.
And the variability that you can add to that too, to add on the point of, say you have an outreach campaign, you can add variability to the point where, hey, look, for this first message, send it out, say 3 days, next one's 5 days, or minutes in between things, 5 to 7 minutes. So you're tricking these providers using AI to give that variability to avoid emails bouncing, to avoid those touch points being rejected, because another underlying issue you might not even think of, because you're contacting them on a regular basis, some providers might flag that as spam, or they might bounce back depending on their email provider. So using the power of AI to trick their spam filters is a huge benefit that normally people are aware of as well.
Right.
Yeah, the variability is huge. The way that I look at it is, let's just assume you've done a fantastic service for the customer. Let's just assume whatever you sell, whatever it is, you've done it exceptionally. But let's say that they can only buy it once, like install solar panels, for an example. You keeping those touch points, it gives you the opportunity to generate more sales opportunities again. It could be a referral. It could be an upsell or a cross-sell. I mean, what's your thoughts on this? If you pay a business to do something for you and they do it exceptionally well, they have got great customer service, and then they keep checking in with you sparingly with the correct or random times sparingly, but just enough to keep you at the top of their mind, how many more opportunities is that going to give you as a business? How many more deals are going to come seemingly out of nowhere, but are actually systematically achievable? Especially with installing an AI system to that.
And even if it doesn't increase it by a whole lot, say it goes from a 3% conversion to a 6%, over 5, 6, 7,000, outreaches. It does add up over time, because obviously you'll never get it to a point where it's 100%, when it comes to your conversion, but just bringing those percentages in your favor with those touch points, what we spoke on before, is huge, especially if you're talking about the scale and the volume that AI can provide, compared to, not having those systems in place.
Plus, I would say, right, we've covered lead generation, right? And what I want to touch on is that to generate a new lead, someone that is interested, that never heard of you before, is way more time demanding and way more expensive than getting a customer who already bought to buy again, especially if you did a very good service. So because they're like, okay, I know these guys, I've been with them before, they've done this, I like it, let's do it again.
Super great point. Super great point, Krystian. It's cheaper to retain an existing customer than it is to acquire a new one.
Imagine a funnel, right? Like, you've got all your leads coming in at the top. At the top is huge. That's all your brand new leads coming through. You want that funnel at the end to be so tight that no one's leaving, but everyone's retaining. And that's basically the model of a successful business. So if you have that pool of leads through your volume, through your outreach, through your thousands and thousands of DMs, emails that you send, having that in place, it's guaranteed to become successful in the long run if you just keep at it every day.
Krystian, I want to ask you, let's take the example of a restaurant. They've installed an AI receptionist / appointment setter, and they've also installed an AI nurture system that uses emails to nurture customers. How much of a difference is that for them, monetarily, once they have an efficient system in place? Meaning, if they don't have it, they're missing opportunities on the front end and they're not bringing back customers on the back end. And on the second scenario, they're catching all of the opportunities on the front end, arguably converting more of them, and they're bringing them back consistently. Like, that could change a restaurant's business 180 degrees.
I would want even more onto that, because a restaurant is way more of a repeat business than any other. Because you need food, you cannot survive without it. So, but it's not, let's say, a one-time, as I've mentioned before, a pool cleaner. Sure, it's a repeat business, but you may need to have it maybe once every 3 months. Food you need every single day, and most people eat 3 meals a day. So, if you, deliver a good service and are on point in terms of the actual receptionist, you actually respond to your customers, you actually have a great welcoming tone while speaking to them, you give good food, and then you remind them, hey, we're doing this offer, hey, we're doing this is a special night tonight, minus 10% off on this meal. Reminding your customers and again that you exist and you're doing this and that reminds them, especially you see it all the time in the food F&B business. Even small stuff such as Burger King ads on the panels next to bus stops with just a burger on it and maybe 2 lines of text. It's just to remind people that, hey, we exist. If you're hungry, come. And the good thing about food, it's not a logical choice most of the time. It's more of I'm hungry, I want to eat.
Well, that's where I was going to jump in. Sorry to cut you off. You've now turned John's Pizza from an option on takeout night to every Friday we go to John's Pizza.
Exactly, yeah. And that's just on the front end too. If you think, imagine you've got your AI that also works with their staff, works with their chefs, recommends them, hey, look, other businesses have been incorporating these seasonal meals. How about we try this? So not only can they work on the front end with customers coming in, you can also have them work with staff for, okay, here's your busier times. Here's where you need to have, say a higher amount of staff. So it saves them, especially for new restaurants, the ones that aren't as established, and don't have as much experience, say in their back end department, having that integrated with, everyone, having it integrated with their payment system. So that way it's you can nearly make a whole database for these restaurants to work with. So that way so that way they can feel like they can't live without it now, because not only are they using it for their receptionists, not only are they using it with their staff, using it as a database, it almost gets to the point where they'll feel so reliant on it where they need the service.
Nice. All right, guys. Any other things to add?
I think a good final note, just to wrap everything up, would be a huge point to talk on if you do want to go out and outreach there yourself, is talk to businesses on the opportunity cost, what they're missing out with not having this implemented in their business, because you'll be surprised the amount of businesses out there can implement AI. So regardless on what niche that you choose, just really hammer down the importance of here's what you're missing in regards to your potential customers that you're missing out on, these potential workload that you're doing upon yourself that could be reduced with AI. So just really honing down on what they're missing out on without it.
100%. When you're thinking about AI and implementing AI in a business, you shouldn't think about what are the costs of implementing the AI. It's the cost of not implementing the AI. That is what really makes the difference.
100%. And just to wrap this all up, we mentioned this in the last episode, Krystian. There's 1,000 different, we've just gone over 5 or 6 different sections of a business that can be improved with AI. There's 100 different things for 1,000 different niches. If you're a business owner and you want to start looking at AI to sell more or save time, just pick one. Just pick one thing that's time, labor, or capital intensive and solve that one thing. Because we're at a time where I would argue 9.5 out of 10 local competitors aren't looking at implementing AI actively.
It's Bitcoin at 3,000.
It's the most exciting time to be alive. It's the most exciting technology right now. And we're still at a point where, this is huge. If you just fix one problem in your business, just one, and you stop there, you are leaps and bounds ahead of the other competitors when they decide to start. And when they decide to start, ideally, you would have implemented 1, 2, 3, 4 systems. And they can't compete with that. What are they going to? They're just going to implement an AI receptionist to take the appointments, and you've got a whole entire system, and now they're in the wrong race, right? So I think that's really, really important to keep in mind. Just find the most painful section in your process, in your operation. Start there, solve that one thing, and take it step by step by step. Awesome. Well, this is episode number 3 of Making Money Squared. Jordan, it's been a pleasure getting your insights. Super valuable stuff dropped there. A lot of gold as well. And it was a little bit of a longer one, which was good. So my name's Ben Twist from Convert Leads. All my stuff's going to be down below. I'll let these boys close it out.
Right. So thank you very much, Ben. My name is Krystian Jacko, right? I'm the founder and owner of Cognitech Solutions, where we help our clients convert more leads using AI in various ways. Now to Jordan.
Perfect, guys. Good podcast, good chat here today. Learned a lot of different things. We got a good group of minds here in this group. So it'll be, you are definitely ahead of the curve. You're in the right space, even for the fact that you're listening to this. So let's just hope when you're dealing with customers that their dog doesn't die and your AI can handle that accordingly.
You'll find Jordan's links below. All right, we'll see you on the next one.